Modernism was a literary period in the early 20th century that rebelled against realism. It was a rebellion against traditional ideas, and it had many characteristics and themes that it experienced, and basically it was a new literary period. It was something that went against the norm. It was, as Ezra Pound put it in Edward Quinn's criticism, to make it new. One of the first things was characters, and in modernism, characters were viewed as a person, and they were not the superhero of today. They were not a Superman, they were not a Batman, they were not the perfect hero. They were actually people with flaws, with disillusionment. The thing that made them heroes was they were able to act graceful under certain situations, as Mr. Langley said it in his video. They were able to act calm, to show grace, to basically be able to make it through the situation, and that's what made them a hero, their actions, not their actual personalities. The next topic that was discussed in modernism is religion. Religion did not, it went down in popularity during the modernism period because you had scientists like Albert Einstein, who was with space-time continuum. You had other scientists such as Charles Darwin, who was saying that we were not all made in image of God, but we actually evolved from apes, and that there was a whole evolution chain. Those things, as people started believing in them, obviously went against the Christian religion, went against other religions in creation, and so realism, which had said that we were the everyman principle and that we were all made in the image of God, was no longer relevant to modernism. Modernism went against that and said, no, we're not made in the image of God. Actually, we went with more of a scientific basis. Nature, as realism described nature in detail, and it was used to get points across in certain areas. Nature was viewed as something beautiful, something pure, something good, in part of people almost in modernism, and it was a way to express one's viewpoints. A lot of writers use nature to have more characteristics to show characteristics of modernism. It was a way to express one's ideas, and with nature came a lot of metaphors and similes and symbolism, and nature was used as symbolism. In the Grapes of Wrath, one of the chapters is about turtle, which is an animal in nature, and the turtle went through a dirt road. It was turned over many times. It went through a weed patch. Excuse me. It went through a weed patch. It went through burrs. It went through all this dust, and it was basically the turtle's journey to get across the road. And it had a hard time getting across the road. And this was one of the ways that nature was used as symbolism to show that the Jodes would have a hard time getting through the Great Depression and the Grapes of Wrath. Also, human nature changed. The human psychic, the psychology behind humans, it changed in modernism. In realism, everyone was viewed as the everyman principle, like an image of God. We were all together, we all had a part to play in society. But modernism really challenged the purpose and the meaning of human life. You had Charles Darwin, who, as Quinn said, who was saying that we were descendants of apes. and evolution, not creation in an image of God. And so humans started really questioning themselves, especially after World War I and all the devastation from the Great Depression, and people were losing faith, losing heart, and they were losing that meaning, why are we here? And so you can see the grimness and the depression in some of these books. The Grapes of Wrath is all about the depression and all the hardships of this family of sharecroppers and how they make it through. And you can see behind Ernest Hemingway's Old Man and the Sea, you can see that the old man has to go through all these hardships of the sea, through storms, through the weight of the fish, through sharks. You can see that it's not a happy fairy tale ending always. It's not a happy fairy tale book. It's a hard book. It's going through the depression. It's going through all these hardships that these people in society actually face. And you can see with human nature that they start to lose faith. They start to lose hope and heart through all these events, even leading up to World War II. And they start to lose faith. The next one is American Dream changed because it was no longer that I'm going to exceed to the top, I'm going to make it all the way up. It was I'm going to survive. That was their goal, was to survive. And people were becoming disillusioned. People were they were losing faith in their country. They were losing that, why am I here? They were losing all of that. And what was affecting that was, and the outcome of that, was that their American dream was not to go to the top as it had been, was not to become a part of nature, was not to become a part of each other. It was merely to survive. And in Grapes of Wrath, you can see that it was merely to survive. They went through starvation, they went through loss of money, unemployment, they went through all these hardships of losing family members. They had to go through all of this. And it wasn't to become rich, it wasn't to become a great poet, it wasn't to become a great person, it was to merely survive and take on that hard struggle and to succeed against it, not to go past the limit, but just to survive. And out of that came the hero and how they did survive. Like, the hero of the Grapes of Wrath was Tom Joad. He had gone to prison, and obviously he had murdered a man, so that was a flaw of his personality, of his character. But he was the support structure for the family. He kept going when others didn't. He was there to help them to get a job, to make money, to provide food for them. He was there as a support structure for them, and that he showed grace in the Great Depression and their family traveling all the way to California. And so he is viewed as a hero, and out of that American dream came the hero. And so modernism, as you can see, it went against the traditional norms because the culture was changing. Farmers and sharecroppers, it wasn't as popular, they weren't making enough money. You had people who were going to urban society. There was a great movement to urban society from the rural society. And you had new ways of art, new forms of literature, you had all of this coming together, and it was a rebellion against the older generation. It was against tradition. Modernism was not thinking inside the box. It was thinking outside the box. And that's where you get Ezra Pound's perfect way to describe it from Edward Quinn's definition of modernism. You have to make it new. And that's what modernism was. It was making a new society. It was going against tradition, thinking outside the box. It was making it new.